Hello, everyone, and welcome to Student Access 101, the podcast where we discuss critical conversations in the pursuit of equitable education for underrepresented students. I am your host, Dr. Tamika. For those of you that don't know me, I am an educator, a researcher, an empowerment speaker, and a lover of all things equitable education and advancement, as well as growth. According to the US Census, Black doctoral graduates make up about 1% of the population, and Hispanic and Latin a bit less than that. Asian Pacific Islander is the largest underrepresented group, and they make up about 2%, while 86% of doctoral graduates are white students. Now, I must say graduates, not the actual students, because there's definitely a higher number of our underrepresented students that start college for their doctorate, but then many of them do not complete. And it takes me back to when I was a PhD student and I was under so much stress. And I remember how difficult it was. And I felt like I was never going to finish. There's a certain part in your doctoral journey where you become what they call ABD, and ABD is all but dissertation. And so I had finished all my courses and I was just working towards completing my dissertation, and I never ever thought that I would finish. And so many of our doctoral students, especially our underrepresented students, will go through that, and if they don't have the proper support, many of them do not finish. Thus, the work that my next guest does is critical to the advancement of students of color in doctoral completion. And so we're going to jump right on into this. Dr. Danny Jean, nice to see you. Your mic is muted. Unmute your mic.
I said, I am very glad to be here today. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. And so for those of you that don't know what doctoral defense season is, this is doctoral defense season. So for those of you that don't know what that basically means that this is the time of the year between March and April where many doctoral students are trying to work towards completing their dissertation or their project. And so because of that, May and June are the graduation dates, and March and April are those hard, stressful times. And Dr. Danny actually created a whole entire platform to help students make it through those stressful times. And so Student Access 101 is my pleasure to introduce you to my guest, Dr. Danny Jean. Thank you so much for being with me. And I'm going to read your bio because as I got to know you more and more, I looked at both of the videos that the video that you sent me, and then I found another video of you on YouTube, and just got a chance, first of all, to hear you speak. And so as a speaker myself, I love hearing other people speak and how they use their cadence and how they use their stage presence. And so it was just an honor to get a chance to see a bold Black man speaking truth and light and empowerment. And so I really appreciate that. So thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Thank you.
And so Dr. Daniel Jean is a proud EOF, Educational Opportunities Fund alumnus who serves as the Assistant Provost of Special Programs at Montclair State University. This first-gen Haitian immigrant is the founder of Finish, Who Got Next. It's a Facebook group. I'm actually a part of that Facebook group. He's also founder of Words Travel LLC and has presented over 600 seminars, including for NACADA, NASPA, NCORE, and the McDonald's Corporation. He is a member of the National Speakers Association, has also shared his expertise at MIT, University of Maryland, Baltimore, University of Louisiana, Lafayette, the Fashion Institute of Technology, which I was pumped about because my background is in fashion. So for you to speak at FIT, I was pretty pumped about that. Northwestern University, University of Central Florida, Western Kentucky University, Rutgers University, Meharry Medical College, Clemson. These are some really good schools. Clemson University, the Southern Regional Educational Board Institute for Teaching and Mentoring. Dr. Jean also serves as a higher ed funding advocate grant writer, consultant, administrator, lecturer, author, adjunct professor, trainer, doctoral coach, and motivational speaker. And I've heard him speak, and he's an amazing speaker. His retention initiatives have resulted in 91.9% first year retention rates, which is amazing, and 61% increase in the 4-year graduate rate of the so-called special admit population. Typically, special admit means students of color, first generation students, students that they don't think are really going to be able to graduate, right?
Yeah, we don't subscribe to that.
Absolutely not. He has published 3 books and has taught undergraduate and graduate courses in consulting, student development, transformation, transformative leadership, and hip hop culture. He is the founder of 3 statewide college access awareness conferences and the Richard Wilson Jason James Mentorship Program. Yes, Dr. Gene has received several accolades for his work, including citations from New Jersey and New York legislator, Educator of the Year Award from Zeta Phi Beta Incorporated, Uprising Stars LLC, the ACPA Educational Excellence Erica Holman Award, and the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Award for the African American and New Jersey Chamber of Commerce. He has been a featured person in the Black Enterprise, the Ebony Tower, Diverse Issues in Higher Education, the Right Stuff Movement, and Diversity in Action magazine. His most recent play, Till Death Do Us Part, ran off Broadway in New York City to sold out shows. Did y'all hear that? This man has, not only is he an academic, but he is also a playwright, which is crazy. That's amazing. He has a goal to deliver 1,000 swagger seminars and assist 100,000 scholars earn their degrees before he retires. Student Access 101, I present to you Dr. Danny Jean, amazing Renaissance man.
I've never actually had someone read the full bio, Dr. Tamika.
Hey,
so
I mean, they had to know. And I was just like, wow. And it's really interesting when I had the last guest that I had, I noticed that she's an amazing person too, and she shortened her bio. And I think that it's a disjustice, to us, especially people of color, when we don't truly just celebrate, because how often do we get a chance to celebrate who we are and other people to celebrate who we are? So absolutely, I was not about to shorten your bio. Absolutely not.
I appreciate that.
Yes. So as a first generation Haitian immigrant, growing up in New Jersey, I read that you went from a 1.9 GPA to the amazing scholar that you are today. Can you tell us about how you grew up and what were some of the challenges that you faced?
Well, again, I'm just very glad to be with you tonight, Dr. Tamika.
Yes.
And I'm glad you mentioned the 1.9 GPA, because the thrust of what I do when I talk to young scholars, young professionals, educators, administrators is really to let them know that anything is possible. You can achieve all of your personal and professional dreams. No one could have told me when I had that 1.9 GPA, struggling with learning disabilities in high school, that I would be where I'm at today. So it's an important message to let folks know the distance traveled and that anything is possible. Wow. The Haitian upbringing is a very unique upbringing. Immigrant parents who came to the United States for the American dream and running water. Couldn't speak English, but knew that education was the passport for me to achieve all of my personal and professional dreams. So that was the foundation for me. Growing up in Newark, New Jersey, I strayed away a bit, but that was ultimately the foundation that got me back on track. Was able to connect with amazing mentors and amazing people who believed in me, saw things in me that I didn't see in myself. And that's why I'm blessed to be in a position to essentially motivate the next generation of doctors, the next generation of college graduates. And ultimately, the idea is that when you reach the top, that you send the elevator back down. And that's what it's all about.
Wow. And, you mentioned having mentors, and as a 45-year-old woman, I still think that it's important for grown people to have mentors. I remember I had a colleague of mine who was surprised to hear that I still, connect in with my mentors on a regular basis. I think it's important that if you're going to grow, you need to have somebody that you can, that either mentors you or either is coaching you, right? You got to have somebody that's going to help you grow. Yes.
And
Yes.
mentorship takes many different forms, particularly in this day and age with social media. I
Absolutely.
have folks who are mentoring me from afar, videos of
Yes.
motivational speakers, which I'm sure you watch too as a motivational speaker,
Yes.
preachers, comedians, and you're learning the craft. You're learning how to move the crowd.
Yes.
One of the few of the pivotal mentors for me were the three doctors of Newark. You may be familiar with their story. They grew up in single parent households. They wrote a book called The Pact. They've been on Oprah's couch. They've been invited to the White House. Watching them become doctors, knowing that I went to school with those brothers who were on that couch with Oprah, it motivated me and inspired me that that was possible for me as well. So mentorship takes many forms, and I think we all have to take advantage of it. Very
Absolutely.
important.
Absolutely. What were some of the turning points in your life that allowed you to see that you deserved better than your surroundings?
You know, it's interesting in retrospect. I can look back at in the moment. I couldn't really see what was happening at the time, but I always wanted more, no matter what circumstance I was in. I mean, to quote Melly Mel, broken glass everywhere. But I
Yeah.
knew in the midst of what I was in that I deserved more, that I wanted more. Did I make mistakes? Yes. Did I get distracted? Yes. Did I put myself in situations where I could have died multiple times? Yes.
Mm.
So I'm truly blessed that I'm in this position. But ultimately, I knew I wanted more. And when you ultimately understand how important discipline is and how important it is to not follow the crowd, I think Nipsey Hussle said it best: if your circle of friends don't inspire you, they're not a circle, they are a cage. So ultimately, if you surround yourself with these folks who are not going anywhere, you're going to be stuck in that barrel with the other crabs. So
Wow.
I separated myself from folks who I thought were negative energy, locked in on my personal professional goals.
Mhm.
And Dr. Tamika, I haven't looked back, and I'm nowhere near done.
I know that's right. I know that's right. And it's what's amazing is that coming from a poor background, oftentimes you mentioned crabs in the barrel. There are tons of crabs in the barrel when you grow up poor. Family members, friends that you grew up with, they just don't understand why people like us strive so hard to be the best that we can be. And it's difficult sometimes. And you're right, cutting off negative energy. I'm still to this day, I preach about that. Like, seriously, if I feel any negative energy, it's done, because I don't, especially being in the profession that we have, we're motivating people. And so we can't have negative energy around us, because our energy has to always be on point so that we can spread that with other people.
Yeah, and there's crabs in every setting. As you grow, you understand
Absolutely.
that, and you really start to just gravitate towards positive energy, positive people, and folks who are looking to elevate and do more with themselves. So that's
Right.
what I was able to figure out at a young age, and I've been blessed and fortunate to connect and surround myself with very powerful, positive individuals.
Yes, yes. And so you are an alumnus of EOF, the Educational Opportunity Fund, which is a program that's in New Jersey, right?
Yeah, so it's basically a program that was established in 1968 in response to the Newark riots, rebellions, to
Mm.
provide. Initially, the legislation said it was for blacks, but it's been expanded to basically help the historically denied low income motivated scholars in the state of New Jersey. Prior to the program, the black and brown diversity in higher education was 2%. So this program has literally tanned the Ivy Tower, diversified the college educated populace in the state of New Jersey. And I'm just proud to be a product of the program. And I now oversee that program and several other first generation programs and initiatives that are borrowing the EOF model.
Yeah, that hand back is really, really important. I'm a product of Trio programs. I'm sure you've heard of Trio. And so that's part of the reason why I started my business, First Generation Revolutionaries, because it's so important that once we get to a certain level, that we can be able to put a hand back so that we can pull others up behind us. Absolutely.
Yeah, I have oversight of Upper Bound as well. We have an
Yeah.
amazing Upper Bound team at Montclair State.
Yes. Yes. Upper Bound UB. Woo, woo, woo. I love UB.
And it actually predates, if I'm not mistaken, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, it predates EOF. It was one of the
Oh,
first programs, federal programs established for low income motivated high
yes,
school
it
scholars.
was. It was a product of the civil rights movement. So it
Mhm.
came right out of the civil rights movement. And that's how Trio programs, Upper Bound particularly, that's how it started. Absolutely. Yes. And so I am a member of your finished, and I'm going to put the banner across so that people can see. It's a Facebook group that is used to empower, to give some insight to those that are working towards finishing their PhD or their EDD doctoral program. And I had, when I joined the group, I was already a PhD, but I just loved the energy, and I loved seeing other students win. You know, I love seeing our Black students win. So that's the reason why I joined, is because I wanted to see more Black PhDs come through and celebrate that. So can you talk a little bit about that Facebook group? Now you have like 22,000 members. That is amazing. That is amazing. And what was your motivation behind creating the group? And did you think that it was going to blow up like it did?
You know, it's interesting, Dr. Meek. I didn't hear your accent until this last set of questions. So I'm curious to know where you're from. What part of the country are you from?
Oh, from Cleveland. From
Okay.
Cleveland.
All right. Got it.
A little. It's funny because I feel comfortable like allowing a little bit of my ghetto girl to come out. So
I didn't hear the accent initially. I'm like, hold on.
Yeah, I was trying to put on the demeanor, but I'm like, this is one of my homeboys. I gotta
Let's
yeah,
just
be
chop it
just
up.
who I am.
Let's just chop it up.
Absolutely.
So the Finnish group. So shout out to Dr. Renetta Toll on the West Coast and Dr. Ansley Abraham in Atlanta. They had oversight of two doctoral consortiums that I was a part of. So I borrowed that model, motivated by what they were doing, and essentially brought it to social media and started the group, I think, in January of 2017. And Dr. Tamika, within a month, we had 1,000 members. The goal of it is just motivation and resources. We're not trying to sell any products. We're essentially just trying to build and help folks understand that they can see the finish line and support and provide motivation throughout their journey. When I was in my PhD journey, it took me 5 years to complete my studies at Seton Hall University in higher ed administration. And there were so many resources that I collected that I think that would help those folks who are on that singular journey. Because oftentimes even your family can't even really support you intentionally because they don't really understand what you're going through. So you mentioned earlier when we were speaking that this is the dissertation season. So 3 or 4 of my personal mentors have defended. I have a mentee, one of my first mentees, defending tomorrow.
Very nice.
I'm getting notes from random folks saying I'm motivated. I got next, and it's just a really beautiful forum. Please join it if you haven't joined it. It's not race based, but it is primarily people of color. And we have folks from over 25 countries within the group celebrating the success of future and current doctors.
Wow. Yeah. Like I said, that's what I love about it, is just being able to see those beautiful faces with their tam on and their robe. And I just love it. It just brings me so much joy.
Dr. Tamika, you have to send me a regalia picture. We got to post you on the cover page soon.
Yes. My regalia picture?
Yeah, please send it ASAP.
Oh, of when I graduated?
Yes. We want to feature you on the cover page.
Oh, yes, I can definitely do that. Yes. You know what? It's funny because I actually use that picture sometimes in my presentations because I talk about, my experience from being in high school in the inner city of Cleveland, growing up in a space where most people did not even finish high school, and I'm actually not only first generation college student, but I'm also first generation high school graduate.
Salute.
Yeah. And so, I show that picture because I want students like us to be able to see that it's possible.
Yeah,
it is
absolutely
definitely possible. Yeah.
And that's what I was referring to earlier, the journey, distance traveled, the 1.9 GPA to where we are now. It's an amazing journey. And we've seen some things that we can share with those that are coming behind us. So salute to you for this movement. And I'm looking forward to partnering with you moving forward in whatever ways that I can.
Absolutely. And something that inspired me about you also, you just mentioned learning disabilities that you had, in school. My son, my oldest son, my 13-year-old, he has some difficulties with school because he has learning disabilities. And I try my best to always encourage him. And so I'm going to have him watch this interview so he can see that there's another Black man that grew up similar to how he did challenges in school and became just an amazing person, and is doing amazing things. I always tell Xavier, his name is Xavier, I always tell him, sweetheart, you're going to do amazing things. I try to always feed that into him.
Absolutely. I mean, to be the author of 3 books and not even being able to, like, reading comprehension was my struggle. I will open up a book, Dr. Tamika, and my eyes will touch every word on the page, and 4 pages later, I haven't retained any of it.
That's my baby. That's how
So,
he is too.
literally visual learner, more of a creative. And I just had teachers who poured into me. Hopefully, Mrs. Richardson is watching, my 8th grade reading teacher. She had us read all types of books at a young age, and forced us to and use techniques to help us memorize facts and understand syntax. And she just was an amazing educator. So shout out to Mrs. Richardson. But to your son, Xavier, anything is possible. Please continue to reach for the stars, and your dreams are within reach.
Yes, baby. Oh my goodness. So you have a goal, and what I also was listening to your uh, video that you sent me, and you said something about, you said, I am obsessed with helping people earn their degree, and that's a passionate statement, a passionate statement. I am obsessed with helping people earn their degree.
Yeah, I mean, the gentleman who just defended, shout out to Dr. Walker, went. So he's sharing his. He had a room of 50 people watching him defend. So they celebrate him
Woo,
when
50. Woo.
yeah. So they
Yeah.
announce him as Dr. Walker, and he's giving me a shout out, and he refers to me as the PhD bully. And all of these future doctors in the room laugh like, yeah, that's exactly what he is. So that's one of my titles. But so ultimately, it's coming from where I come from and understanding that folks had to turn the lights on for me. They had to really let me know what they saw in me before I could see it in myself.
Mm,
So I have the mentee that's actually defending tomorrow. When she graduated with her bachelor's degree, I showed up to her graduation with a master's degree frame with her name on it. And then when she earned her master's, I showed up with a PhD frame with her name on it. So
mm.
literally, she's defending tomorrow. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to grab the tissues because it's going to be
Woo.
one of those moments. But ultimately, it's understanding that anything is possible, and literally, I think you touched on it earlier. It's asset-based language. We're not what do we call it? We're not at risk. We're not underrepresented. We're historically denied. It's
Absolutely.
all of my, and I've written extensively on this. Every student is a scholar, being very intentional with language. Even my program is for students who are non-admissible by regular admit standards. But we're very
Mm.
careful with the language we use to make sure that these scholars know and fully understand. And that's why we have the highest graduation rate at the university, I believe, is because it's a framework to really empower these scholars to understand that anything is possible. And
Wow.
we provide a framework that focuses on student learning in and outside the classroom, student retention, focusing on their persistence and time to degree, and satisfaction that they ultimately graduate and they're active alums who are satisfied with their experience at the university.
And that is so important because part of what my goal is in life is to be able to make sure that students, while they're going through and matriculating, that they're having a good experience. There's nothing worse than having a student go through, matriculate, and then hate the school that they went to and don't want to
Correct.
have anything to do with it. And
Correct.
so it's important that young people be able to enjoy the experience while going to school.
Yeah, and the enrollment framework is from prospect to active alumni status. So we're being
Mm,
very active in the communities so that the first generation parents and their communities know exactly what these programs are so they can take full advantage of the pathways to earning their degree. And as you said, once they graduate, you want them to be connected to the program in a way that they'll give back in whatever ways they can.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So you have a goal to deliver 1,000 swagger seminars and
Yes.
assist 100,000 scholars earn their degrees before you retire. So my question is, what's a swagger seminar?
So Swagger Seminar is the umbrella framework for my workshops. And it's basically an acronym for strengths, works in progress, achievements, and goals.
Okay.
So all of my presentations essentially help folks identify and work on those areas. And almost all of my presentations, they lead with time reference goals because you want to motivate folks, but you also want to give them a framework that they can use moving forward. So we do the rah-rah, we do the energizers, we get them moving around, we get them excited. It's very interactive, but ultimately, what are you going to do beyond this presentation? So that's
Mm,
the swag paradigm. And then I keep moving the target for the number of scholars because folks told me they gave me some algorithm saying you've already impacted X amount of scholars. So that's hard to
Absolutely.
quantify. But
Absolutely.
but the workshops are more quantifiable. So I'm close. I'm approaching 700. Very excited, and I may have to move that target because I think I'll be able to reach that very soon. And I'm just a messenger. I live by the
Mhm.
biblical verse Ephesians 4:29 to make sure that the words that you share to build and not destroy. And I just want to make sure, similar to some of the things you listed in my bio, I just want to share my authentic voice. Like it's awesome to be able to be yourself and change the world and impact lives just being you. So we always talk about code switching. I'm not even code switching. This is just me. It's my
Yep.
authentic self. I'm showing
Yep.
up in all of these different places. Even the Who Got Next and some of the language I use, I'm just literally just trying to tend the ivory tower and making certain that folks understand that anything is possible as it relates to who we are and what you can achieve.
Wow. And that whole code switching idea, that was something that I think was important for me as a young person.
Correct.
When you're young, you're trying to figure yourself out. And especially, after going to college, being from a poor background, when you go back home for your breaks and stuff, I'll never forget. I was actually just telling one of my mentors this today. I was on the phone with her and I said, I remember, people in my neighborhood when I came back from my first year in college, they were like, "Oh, you talk so white now. You talking white like a white girl. You've been up there with all those white people." And it's for me, I was just being who I was. And it's difficult to try to travel, and it's a narrow line to travel between both of those worlds. It really, really is. And I had to get to a point in my life where I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna be me, regardless if you appreciate it or not. It's just gonna be Dr. Tamika. That's what it's gonna
Yeah.
be.
Very similar journey. And then once it's basically a journey, and it's really a journey, not a destination. But at some point you do identify like this is who I am. I'm gonna
Absolutely.
evolve, I'm gonna make mistakes, and I have to be able to navigate all of these different worlds, which I think we all do. But ultimately your authentic self has to show up in all of those rooms. And then
Yeah.
you ultimately change those rooms when you show up as yourself and not
Absolutely.
as someone in disguise.
Absolutely. I'm glad that by the time I became the first Black professor ever in my fashion school, I was already into my authentic self
Hmm.
because I
Hmm.
would have gotten swallowed up by my colleagues. That experience allowed me to really come into myself and just be who I was. And, the students, they loved me. They loved me. I loved them. And it was amazing. It was an amazing experience, but it was also a very challenging experience. But I'm glad by that time in my life, I had come into my authentic self.
Yeah. And I had a scholar I met with today, which is probably similar to what you were just referring to. She was interviewing with me for a project. We ended up speaking for an hour, and she just started to list the people that she knows that care about her, and she listed me as one of them.
Hmm,
Scholars know when you care, right? That
absolutely,
authentic
they do.
energy you give them as it relates to their growth and development. So I'm just blessed to be able to work with a team that are amazing, that are transforming lives, and then scholars who I know can benefit from this framework that transform my lives and the lives of so many others. So it sounds like you're in a similar space. I would love to
Absolutely.
know how you're still living out your fashion passion because I think it's really important to continue to do the things you love at a high level.
Yeah, well, you know what? We can have a whole nother conversation about that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I worked in fashion for 20 years,
Oh
you
wow.
know. That was a long time, before but yeah, that'll be a whole nother conversation that we
Offline,
have.
offline.
Yes, absolutely. But um if you could leave our graduate students with a word of encouragement to help them through their challenging times, what would that word be?
You said one word?
Yeah, just one word of encouragement.
I think it's elevation.
Mm,
And elevation is so. I think we have to move away and identify what our weapons of mass distraction are.
mm,
So one of the things that I find, even now, when I need to do something that makes me feel uncomfortable, I often find ways to avoid it, and I have to reset and realign to make sure I get that work done. So graduate work is a lot of that is tedious. A lot of times, you'll get distracted. So identify what your distraction is, identify it as a problem, and then turn it into a solvable puzzle.
yeah.
So elevation can happen if you basically focus on elevation over entertainment and then use all of the resources you have.
Elevation over entertainment. Wow, that's deep.
Yeah, and just tools over toys, right? Don't get locked in. I
Wow.
think we're all addicted to our screens now. If you're
Yeah.
in a graduate program, you want to get done sooner and later. It costs the longer you're in the program. So how can you lock in with your advisors, with your cohort, with mentors, and be very intentional as it relates to that road to graduation?
Wow. Wow. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you would like to discuss?
Just my book, I Am I
Yes.
Will,
Okay.
is basically an action achievement guide, and it's geared toward primarily towards college students and young professionals. But similar to you mentioning that we all need mentors, it's a framework that essentially says identify who you are and who you plan to become. So
Mm.
I am, anything you put after I am, no one can tell you that you are not.
Ooh,
Right? So I am
absolutely.
powerful, I am tired, I am frustrated, I am Haitian American, I am a fashion entrepreneur, like whatever it is. And then the I will, what do you plan to achieve short term and long term? So I am
Wow.
a Haitian American, I will impact 1,000 future graduates, right? And then once you identify the I will, you identify time reference action steps to achieve the I will that you outline for yourself.
Mm.
And then ultimately, this is the most important part, Dr. Tamika, of the I am, I will paradigm. And I'm going to take this international. It's a powerful way to achieve your goals. But what's more important than the willpower is the why power.
Ooh,
So when I
yes.
say I am, I will, and I say I'm going to impact 1,000 or 100,000 future graduates, why is it important? It's important because somebody saw this young, scared African American male in the heart of Newark, New Jersey, who had just lost his father, and told him that he was going to be somebody. And that
Mm.
ultimately changed and transformed my life. And that came in so many different forms. And that's why you see me on the stages in New York City. I used to write rhymes, mentorship programs, conferences, administrator. This guide is ultimately trying to create all of these different platforms in my authentic voice that I know will transform the world.
Wow. Where can people get the book?
So they can contact me at Words Travel. I'm not into third party software, so I'm all into direct to consumer,
I understand.
a FUBU mindset. So you can contact me through at Words Travel on all the platforms or at Danny Jean on
Mhm.
LinkedIn.
Okay. All right. And that's the end of our conversation, Dr.
Going by
Danny. I
fast,
mean,
Dr. Tarika.
yes, it did. It did go by fast. I mean, you were just, I mean, it was just a flow. It was just, there was nothing difficult about this conversation. It was just a flow. And so I appreciate that. I really do. And like I said, it's amazing to me when I see Black men who come from a situation similar to mine and actually go off and become amazing men, amazing high achieving men. That is
Awesome.
so it's so uncommon to see that. And so I really appreciate that. And you are definitely, a role model for many.
Well, this is an amazing platform. It's all about rewiring your mindset, truly stopping and what I think was called the by yourself meeting, right? Where you hold the mirror up,
Mm,
self reflection. Am
uh,
I where I want to be? What do I have to do to change my circumstances? Really doing a self analysis, making no excuses, avoiding weapons of mass distraction,
mm,
rewiring that inner voice before you make that next choice, identifying your team success over team failure. And then again, the I am I will. It's who you are.
wow.
Let the world know who you are. And then be very intentional with letting us know what you plan to achieve. I don't think it can
Mm,
get any simpler than that. So, graduate scholars, anybody watching this um, interview, if I could be of any help to you moving forward, please reach out to me directly. I have several ways that we can connect and partner and
yes,
change the
yes,
world.
absolutely. And don't forget to join the Facebook group. It's amazing. It's amazing to see all those beautiful people, getting their PhDs. So I thank you so much. And this was an amazing conversation. And have a wonderful night, Dr. Danny
Awesome.
Jean. And
Thank you, Dr.
I'll be in
Tamika.
touch with you because I definitely, want us to be able to partner on some things.
And you have to send that regalia picture. You got next. You got next on that cover page.
I'll make sure I get it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you.
All
Be
right.
blessed.
See ya. All right, everybody. So this is the part of the program where I dive a little bit more into the research. As I mentioned before, I'm an educator, I'm a researcher, and I think it's really important that not only do we talk about what's happening, but we back that up with research. And so doctoral students, doctoral graduate degrees earned by people of color result in more faculty of color in universities and college spaces. And there is a great need for Black and brown faculty of color in particular. Our student retention rates depend on this because research has shown that students of color fare better when working with faculty of color. So if there are no faculty of color, our students of color don't really have many people that they can go to. And I know this situation all too well because I was the very first Black professor ever in the School of Fashion at Kent State University. And when I left to serve as assistant dean, I moved out of the fashion school and moved into the dean's suite. I didn't tell any students where I was going, but they came looking for me because there was no one else that could support them, especially when it came to researching about Black and African American studies. They needed somebody, and they came looking for me. So it's so important that we figure out some ways that institutions and organizations can be able to support those students of color, underrepresented students that are working towards getting their PhD. And so on the screen, you'll see I have a reference or resource. I'm all about giving resources. So the resource that I use to be able to do this part of the program is listed on the bottom. You can see if you want to learn more about the research, you can learn more about it there. But this particular Arif and his associates that published this particular article, they came up with 10 rules that organizations and universities and colleges can follow to support any underrepresented student successfully into matriculation. And so number one is to teach with empathy. Number two is to implement student learning. Number three is facilitate student empowerment. Number four is diversify scientific perspectives. And that's so important because Black and other people of color want to research other things, not similar things that their colleagues might want to research. So it's really important that we diversify scientific perspectives, reduce financial barriers. And that's a big thing. A lot of students of color and first generation students have issues with finding financial support. Advocate for and create accessibility and learning environments, number 6. Number 7, connect students with resources and opportunities. Number 8, facilitate access to informal education and enrichment. Number 9, integrate community. And number 10, commit to ongoing education and accountability. And that's so important because our students need us, and educators and advocates who are listening. I really hope that this message inspired you to be empowered and to think more creatively about how we can support our students. And we're going to be ending this show again. And I want to thank you all for joining. This particular show was brought to you by Be the GOAT, Career Readiness Manual for First Generation Students and Young Professionals. I've been blessed to be able to give this book off to hundreds of students, and I plan on, giving it to hundreds of more students. It's an amazing manual that I wish I would have had when I graduated from undergrad, because I had no idea what it was going to be like coming into the corporate space. I didn't know how to interview properly. I didn't know how to put together a resume properly. And there was so many things that I just did not know. And students that are first gen, who don't have parents, that are in professional fields, they have a difficult time. And this book is just a tool for them to be able to help them get on the road to success. And so I want to thank you all again for listening. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please leave a like, comment on YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn, and share it with people in your circle who you feel will benefit. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and together we can do this. Together we can change the trajectory of equitable education for underrepresented students. And always remember, let's empower and educate, because there's no success without student access. Have a good night, everybody.